Now we're on Daf Vav Amid Beis Ubialma Lo Chayshina. Now we're saying that as a general rule, when you provide an Amoritz with ingredients in order for him to bake your bread, etc., you don't have to worry that when you get the bread, he switched your ingredients for him. So Gemara says Vatnan, but what are you going to do with a Mishnah in Tmai? Hanosein lefundakis shalo. Right, so you have this yeshiva bacher who's staying, on his way to yeshiva, he's staying overnight in a lodge, in an inn. And he wants to give her the ingredients to prepare a fresh bread for him for the morning, for breakfast. So again, there are two halachas here. Number one, maser es shehu nosein la, right? Lest she also break bread with him, and then she'll be eating tevel. So therefore, he better make sure that he's not violating lifnei ivel osukti mishal, and therefore he should make sure that he was mafresh maser. Ve'eshu no tell him. And even after he receives back from her the bread, and keep in mind he had provided her with the ingredients, nevertheless he has to be mafresh maser. Neishachashuda machlefes. We're afraid that she, as the wife of an Amoritz, is going to switch the ingredients, and that which she adds into the dough is actually tevel. Hasamnami mori avi amra ano echel krira. Right? Bar beirav lechel chamima v'anan echel krira. She also justifies switching the ingredients. Why? She has a vested interest in supplying this yeshiva student with good, fresh, warm food. And she sees that, she's got to exchange something else for what he gave her, because what he gave her is not going to be fresh and warm. But as a general rule, an Amoritz is not suspected of switching the ingredients. Frekti Gemara, what are you going to do with the following brisa? Eishes chaver tochenes im eishes Amoritz. Okay, you have, let's say, two neighbors. One is a woman who's married to an Amoritz. They're not careful about being mafresh maser. And the other is married to a chaver who's pious and is very dedicated to the laws of tevel and is mafresh maser. They are working together at the mill to grind the grains and create flour. Now, just 1 second, I'm missing one piece. I forgot. This brisa is going to address the following question. Does the Eishes Chaver have to worry about the fact that she, herself, the Eishes Chaver, might be tempted to eat from these grains that are being brought to the table, meaning to the mill, by the Eishes Amoritz and are tevel? So the brisa says it all depends. Very surprisingly. It depends whether the Eishes Chaver is Tmeya or Tahora. I mean, Tmeya usually means that she was a Nida. It could be that she contracted Tumah through a sheretz. We don't know. Now, if she's a Tmeya, then she won't touch the grains. She doesn't want to be mitami the grains because some of those grains she's going to take home and she doesn't want it to be tmei. Since she won't touch the grains, therefore, we don't have to suspect that she'll eat from the grains. And that's called bisman shehi tmeya. Avolo bisman shehi Torah. If she's grinding together with the Eishes Amoritz, and she herself, the Eishes Chaver is Tmeya, I'm sorry, is Tahora, which means that she will actually come in direct contact with the grains as they're being ground up in the mill, then we have to be afraid that she might come and taste from the grains, which are tevel. Rav Shimon Gamliel, Rav Shimon Elazar Omer, af bizman she tmei lo titchon. You want to say that since she's tmeya in the ratio, she's not going to come in any contact with the grains, and if we don't have to worry about her eating the grains, no, no, no. Let's explain. The Eishes Hamaretz, according to the strict letter of the law, is not allowed to offer from the grains of her household a gift to anyone else. Why? Because that's gzela. The grains don't belong to her, but in the context of a ksuba relationship, they belong to her husband. So in effect, by giving this as a gift, well, I'm not talking about a situation where you invite someone to your house, but if you give an outright gift, that's gzela. And therefore, if Shimon Gamliel says, forget about the Easter of Tevel, insofar as the other woman is an Eishes Hamaretz, I have another problem. I have a problem with gzela. And therefore, even if she's Tmeya, what we're worried about is in the context of their friendship as two neighbors who are working together at the mill and grinding together and helping each other, she may say, here, I have a gift for you. Take this gift and eat it. So now the Gemara makes the following analysis. Hashta migzal gazla chilufe miboy. You're suspecting this Eishes Hamaretz of gzela. Then you certainly would have to suspect her of chilufe, of taking this ground up flour and substitute it for something else. And by substituting it, she's giving the Eishes Chaver Teva. Once again, we have the same logic, says Rav Yosef, that here's an exceptional case where we think that there's a special motivation on the part of the Hamaretz to switch it around, because here she is a neighbor who very fondly appreciates the fact that the Eishes Chaver is grinding with her together, and since they're doing it together, she justifies herself. It says, an ox eats from what it threshes. The Torah allows, when you're threshing with an ox in somebody else's field, and you have a job, that the ox is allowed to eat. Here also, she says, my husband will certainly not object to the fact that I gave this gift because she's working for me. They're working together. But again, be alma, under ordinary circumstances, we don't have to be choshesh that Hamaretz would be machlif, would switch the ingredients and so forth. So, hey, Rabbi Yeshua ben Meir lifnei Rabbi Alam Rabbi Meir. Testimony about Rabbi Meir. Sha'achal ola shel yerik b'Beishan. Beishan is one of the areas that's outside of the bounds of Eretz Yisrael, but smuchim la. It's very close to the land of Israel. So the laws that depend upon the ground on the produce, which is called mitzvah tulis ba'aretz, like trumas and masros, would not apply to Beit Shan. However, the Rabbanan made a gzera, and they prohibited artzos hasmuchos, all the lands that are on the outskirts and very close, they're almost at the boundary of Eretz Yisrael, Mirabanan, Tevel, and you need Trumas and Maasros. Comes along Rabbi Meir, according to this testimony, and he ate Yerakos in Beit Shan without being mafresh. Meaning that there's no requirement of Hafrashas Chumas Amaisris in Beit Shan. Vehita Rebbe es Beit Shan Kulal Yada. When Rebbe got appointed the Nasi, it's like the first thing he did as a Nasi was he said, you know what? Even though you've been very careful and not and being mafresh maser from Beit Shan, from henceforth you don't bother. We have testimony that Rabbi Meir ate from the vegetables of Beit Shan and he wasn't mafresh maser. Chavrol of Echavu, based off all the members of his family got together, and they said, "Amrulo, Mokum Shavosecha v'Achosov Nogi Isur Atad Tinog Voheter." After all these generations that we have assumed that fruits and vegetables coming from Beit Shan require trumas and masras, now you're going to smach mit the hand, you're going to throw it all out and be noig Voheter. So Rebbe responded. Okay, now the response of Rebbe, we'll go through the pasuk and how he interprets the pasuk, but basically, what Rebbe is trying to establish based on this drasha, to hold drasha here about the Nechash and Nechoshes, is a principle called Makom Hinichu Avosenu Lisgaderbo, which translates in the following way. Sometimes the older generations, I don't know, I'm afraid to use this term, but they make mistakes. Again, these are divinely ordained mistakes to allow the younger generation, when they move into the leadership roles, to rise and shine, to become great, and to fix the errors of the earlier generations. Now, exactly what the mistake was with regard to Beit Shan, let me see if I remember that. Just 1 second. Just give me a minute to see if I can remember this. Oh, if I'm not mistaken, the halach of Beit Shan would apply to grains under the gzera of Makomos Hasmuchim Li'eretz Yisrael, but not with regard to fruits and vegetables. And that was the heter of Rabbi Meir, on the basis of which Rebbe was matir fruits and vegetables in Beit Shan without afrosh. Darish lehem mikrazeh. Okay, now at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Jewish people went a little bit off, and Hashem sent these dangerous serpents. And in order to try to stave this off, Moshe Rabbeinu created Nechash HaNechoshes, a serpent that was made of copper, and he put it up so that the people, when they saw the serpents, they would look up towards Shamayim, and they would pray to Shamayim. That's the way they did tshuva, and that saved the generation from these terrible serpents. In a later generation, so we'd have to add one other point. They held on to this Nechosh and Nechoshes for many, many generations, because it was such a miraculous thing, until the time of the fathers of Chizkiah. The fathers of Chizkiah, who was the great righteous king, were guilty of Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah spread like wildfire in the land of Israel amongst the Jewish people. And when the practice of idolatry took hold in Israel, the kappa serpent came to be regarded as an object of worship. They started worshiping this kappa, Nechoshes, this serpent. Achaz, he was the father of Chizkiah, and this was going on. After the death of Achav, when Chizkiah rose to power and he wanted to uproot Avodah Zarah, it says, "V'kites nechash nechosher osa Moshe." He had no compunctions about taking the serpent that Moshe Rabbeinu had created miraculously, that kappa serpent, and completely crumbling it, crushing it, and destroying it. Ki ad hayom imahema hayu bnei Yisrael mekatrin lo. because they used to burn incense to this Nechoshes Choshes as part of their idolatry. Vayikra lo Nechushtan. In order to make fun of it, he calls it Nechushtan. Nechushtan means it's just copper. You're giving it, you're calling it a deity as if it has any powers. It has no powers. It's just a shtick copper. So now the question is, Efsher ba'asa v'lo biro. Ah, so wait a minute, I skipped a generation. Wait, Achaz and Asa. Who came first? Just one second. Just I have to open up a Tanakh here. Ah, so I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry, this is Bi'ravon Mugbal. I have to check this out. I think that Achaz's father was a tzaddik Asa, and his father was Yoshaphat, who we already discussed was a tzaddik. And all these generations before Chizkiah of great tzaddikim, lo bi'aro. They didn't destroy the Nechash HaNechoshes. Maybe they felt a kavod for the fact that this was passed on through the generations, that it was created by Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Halo kol avodah zarah sheba'olam asa v'yoshafat ubiram. These were two great kings, righteous kings, that destroyed all of avodah zarah. And yet, when it came to the Nechash HaNechoshes, they left it intact. Let's just learn a little bit on Daf Zion. Ella, they made a mistake. Asa and Yoshaphat made a mistake. The same mistake. They should have destroyed the Nechash HaNechoshes. And as a result of the fact that they failed to do so, there were another 2-3 generations in which they worshipped and brought libations in front of the Nechash HaNechoshes. And that's called Makom Yinichulav Asenu Lizgadaba. Kodesh Baruch Hu set it up. Again, the philosophical issues here, but he set it up, God, he with the capital H, in such a way that they would make these mistakes in order to allow the next generation to distinguish themselves and reach the glory, the greatness, and fix that mistake. And that's what Chizkiah did. He was metaken, that kilkul that his forefathers failed to destroy the Nechash. He stepped up to the plate and destroyed. And that's called Makom Yinichu Avasenus Gaderbo. And Afani says, Rebbe about himself, Makom Yinichu Li Avosal Gaderbo. Even though my forefathers for generations have made a mistake, and they assume that you have to be mafresh maser from vegetables and fruits in Beit Shan, I'm going to correct that mistake. So let's just read this and then we'll conclude for today. Asa and Yoshaphat erred, thinking that they were forbidden to destroy the copper serpents, and Moshe had crafted it upon God's instruction. And it was saved for all posterity as a remembrance of the great miracle of the Nechash HaNechoshes. So God caused them to err, so that they would leave room for Chizkiah to distinguish himself as a battler to battle Avodah Zarah by destroying the serpent. Now we have the Nimshal. Rebbe contended that his ancestors erred in considering Beit Shan as part of Eretz Yisrael. And God brought about this error so that Rebbe when he inherited the position of Nasi, he would be left with room to distinguish himself. This is disappointing. Just give me one more minute if you can. Disappointed he doesn't explain the issue of Beit Shan. Let me just see. Let's see if it's not. Okay, I don't want to keep you because we're already finished the hour, and I'm not finding it right now. Maybe by tomorrow I'll find something. Okay then. So let me wish you a. They say here in this parts a lag sameach. Okay. So we got up to Daf Zion, and the Gemara on Daf Zion is going to analyze the status of Beit Shan. So I was a little bit premature. So Mitzvah, we'll get to that tomorrow.